just screaming. Don't ask me again. Somebody just catch her! Hi, I'm Alyssa, and today I'm going to share with you my firstborn daughter's birth story. I have watched many birth stories on YouTube and I find them so interesting. I love to hear other women's stories, and so today I'm going to share with you mine. So I did have a scheduled induction. So on December 1st, 2016, I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I got ready and I did my hair and my makeup and I was looking as cute as I could. And my husband and I were at the hospital by 6 a.m. We checked in, got sent to our room, and I put the gown on, and the nurse asked me a bunch of questions. And as soon as she walked out that door, I lost it. I burst into tears. Reality hit me. I was scared. I was about to become a mother, and I did not feel ready for that, even though I wanted a baby so badly. The day came and I knew I was about to be in labor and I was about to have a baby, and it was overwhelming. So I boo-hooed cried all of my pretty makeup off, and my husband prayed with me, and then after we prayed, I was good to go. I felt a whole lot better, and I was at peace. I redid my makeup and then at 8 o'clock in the morning they started Pitocin. Once the Pitocin started, I was having heavy cramping. It felt like heavy menstrual cramps. I have had much worse menstrual cramps than what I was feeling in my life. And there was like a very heavy pulling sensation, like gravity had just become a lot stronger. There was a lot of pulling in my legs. But that's also very similar to what I get with heavy menstrual cramps. So it was not a foreign feeling to me, but it was starting to get stronger, uncomfortable, and just feeling like very pulled down and weighed down. So I labored on the birthing ball for a little while, and then at 10 o'clock, the doctor came in and broke my water. And if you don't know how they do that, she has a glove on, of course, and has this stick that has a little tiny needle at the end of it and puts it way up inside of you, way up there, and pops your water. It didn't hurt at all, but it was a very interesting sensation yeah, it's just something I'd never experienced before. She stuck her arm up there, she popped it, and then just gush of warm water. So very strange. And then they put some like pad things all over the birthing ball, and I was back on the the labor ball, and I was back on that, and I was bouncing, rocking back and forth, and trying to stay as active as I could, but it just quickly became too much. The contractions were getting strong. That gravity feeling was just really getting to be too much, and I would not have even been able to walk at that point. So it was not very long after my water was broken that I was bound to the bed, and then the contractions really started to come on quickly, and they became very painful, and they were one on top of the other, and there were no breaks. Something I learned from watching birth videos and birth stories on YouTube is that you get a break between your contractions, and that you'll have a really painful contraction, but then you get a break, you can breathe, you can talk to people, and then you wait for the next one to come on. I watched Elle Lindquist's birth video that she ended up having a water birth in the hospital, and she would have a contraction, then she would talk to the camera and say, "See, I just had a really heavy contraction and now I'm able to talk to you and I'm fine." And so I thought, well, if I can have breaks between the pain, I can handle it. With Pitocin, at least in my experience, that is not the case. All I knew about Pitocin was that it made your contractions stronger than normal contractions. But again, I thought if there was a break between my contractions, even if they're stronger, I can handle it. I have a high pain tolerance. I've got this. So I'm having these terribly painful contractions come on one on top of the other, and before one contraction got to go away, another one was coming on. And I looked at my husband, who is now holding my hand, seeing that I was very uncomfortable and in need of support. He was holding my hand, and I was like, they said that I would get a break. There's no break. And he was like, I told you not to watch all those videos. But I am glad that I watched the videos, because it really did give me a pretty good idea of what labor and delivery was like. But with every birth story, you have to remember that every birth story is different. So yours is not going to be like mine or anyone else's that you see on YouTube. So just gain all the knowledge that you can, and then just try to move on without expectations. But I definitely had the expectation that I was going to have breaks in between my contractions. When there's no break, you don't really have time to relax and breathe. So I'm trying to breathe through these horribly painful contractions. Some I'm really able to do the whole breathing through. But if you do that for a really long time, you're like hyperventilating, right? And then other contractions, I was not able to breathe through so much, and I was just screaming. And I ended up screaming, or more like a yelling, for 2 hours straight. I was in a lot of pain, and I envisioned myself laboring silently, because whenever I am in pain, usually I am very quiet and I internalize it. I don't want to be touched. And so that's how I envisioned my labor being. But no, I yelled for 2 hours straight. So another thing that happened, because I was not getting breaks between the contractions due to the Pitocin, was that I wasn't breathing well. And so my hands and my feet cramped up. My hands were like this. I could not move them. I could not stretch them out. My feet were the same way. And I was absolutely miserable to be having these painful contractions coming on one on top of the other. And I could not move my hands and feet. All I could do was to rock back and forth. So I'm like rocking back and forth. Ooh, it's funny now. I probably looked like a T-Rex. I just spit. It was like, Rah! That's not really how my yell was. I probably can't even mimic it now, but yeah, all I could do was rock back and forth in the bed, all cramped up, yelling. Finally, after 2 hours of that, I looked at the nurse and I said, please check me. I need to know how much longer I'm doing this. So she checked me, and I was at 6 centimeters. So I said, okay, how much longer? She said, well, of course, I don't know, but we estimate 1 centimeter an hour. And I said, I can't do this for 4 more hours. Of course, she was like, we said we weren't going to say the word can't. And I was like, give me the epidural. I need it. So I was put on the list to get an epidural. But what they did whenever I asked for the epidural was turn my Pitocin down. And my assumption to this, and if you are a nurse or a doctor, then you let me know if I am incorrect. But I assume that they turned down the Pitocin or turn it off so that I could actually sit up and curl over and get the epidural, because at that point I couldn't move. I was in so much pain. So they turned down the Pitocin. Well, of course, I'm at the bottom of the list for the anesthesiologist at that point, and so it took him about an hour to get to me. But within that hour, I did not have the Pitocin anymore, and I was experiencing normal labor. And I was having pretty heavy contractions and painful contractions, but I had breaks between them. I was breathing between them. Because I was breathing and getting oxygen, I got feeling back in my hands and feet, and I was feeling a lot better. So the anesthesiologist got to me and asked me if I wanted the epidural, and I said, you know what, I think I'm fine. I think I can do this without the epidural. And the nurse had checked me, and I was at 9.5 centimeters in 1 hour. I went from 6 to 9.5, so I was just So close, half a centimeter more, and I could push this baby out. So the nurse did something to try to help me dilate more quickly, put her hand up there and did something. I don't know. So I only had half a centimeter left, and they're asking me if I want the epidural. And I'm like, no, I think I got this. Well, then a contraction would come on and they would see that I'm in a lot of pain. And then they would ask me again, are you sure? Do you want the epidural now? And the anesthesiologist is still right there. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. And then the contraction would pass and they would ask me again. And I'd say, no, I think I can do this. I think I can do this. And then another contraction would come on and they would ask me again, same thing, I don't know, maybe. Finally, I just said, I have half a centimeter left. I'm almost there. I can do this. Don't ask me again. So they stopped asking me about the epidural. And so then at that point, I was like, okay, epidural is not an option, and I'm going to do this. Shortly after I denied the epidural, the nurse said, okay, let's do some practice pushes. And I don't know what that means, but I started pushing through contractions and it felt so good to push through them. I didn't even feel any pain while I was pushing, and my body was literally just like pushing for me. And she would, you know, do the count to 10 through the contraction. She'd say, okay, push whenever you're ready, because I could feel everything. So I would feel the contraction coming on, so I would start pushing. And she would count to 10, but I would push for like 12 to 15 instead of just her 10 count, because I was just going with what my body was naturally doing. And she said, as long as you feel like you need to push, keep pushing, you can keep pushing. So we did that for about 45 minutes. So after about 45 minutes of pushing, I was like, okay, like she's coming right now. I feel her. She's coming out. And they're like, hold on, don't push anymore. I've been pushing for 45 minutes, which actually went really quickly. It did not even feel like that long. And of course it felt good to push, so I was happy to do it. But all of a sudden it's like, okay, now don't push. Breathe through the contractions. The doctor is not in here. The doctor was delivering someone else. So nurses ran to get the doctor, but she was in the middle of delivering another baby. So I'm having to wait on her, and my body is pushing. Like I am trying to relax my body as much as I can, but I can't control it. Like my body is pushing this baby out, whether everyone else is ready or not. And everyone's telling me, breathe through the contractions. You know, everyone's trying to get me to relax and breathe through the contractions and to not push. And I was like, she is coming. Somebody just catch her. And luckily, just a minute later, the doctor ran in, and it was like a movie. She like put her arms in the gown, hands in the glove, and then out comes baby, and she catches my daughter. And then she was born at 2:53 p.m. on December 1st, and she was 7 pounds, 4 ounces, 20 inches long, and what a wonderful moment. The relief that you feel after giving birth is amazing. It's like all this hard work and pain, and also just discomfort from having a human inside of you. You just get relief from all of that. And as soon as my daughter was born, they put her on my chest for skin to skin, and she cried, you know, for a minute, but I was like shushing her, and she just looked up at me. I'll never forget. She looked up at me and we caught eye contact, and people were like asking me, has she opened her eyes yet? I was like, she's not a puppy. and others were like, oh, well, I mean, like, you know, has she like focused or whatever, caught eye contact with you? I guess because babies, sometimes they like look around or something and they can't focus or something. I don't really know what they're talking about there, but she caught eye contact with me like right after she was born, and we're just like looking at each other. It's so sweet. It was like overwhelming physical relief, and then overwhelming emotional joy. There's just no feeling like it. And they asked me if she wanted to nurse. She latched right away, and we got very lucky with breastfeeding. It was really smooth sailing. I met with a lactation consultant a couple times just to make sure everything was going right, but she did really well and just latched on from minutes after she was born, and we were just so overjoyed. So yeah, she's a healthy baby girl, and we're so thankful. That is my firstborn daughter's birth story. If you would like to know if I would do it all over again with Pitocin and without an epidural, and if you would like to know the reason why I was induced in the first place, then make sure you subscribe to see future videos. I'd love to know your birth stories. So if you have videos of your birth stories, will you link those in the comments so that I can watch yours? And also, if you have any like comments or questions about mine that maybe I left out, then ask those too. And I'm super excited to see what y'all have to say, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye.